Hi, everybody. Let's go over Poison by Roald Dahl. Yes, that same Roald Dahl that wrote Lamb to the Slaughter. But this one's going to be a little bit different, okay? And I'll cover as much as I can in this 15-minute lesson. And we're going to explore that relationship of India. Again, the colonists and the Brits that lived in India and how the Indians were treated when they lived there, okay? So we're gonna read and analyze a good portion of Poison by Roald Dahl together, and then whatever I don't get done in this lesson, you'll be expected to analyze on your own, which I know you can do. So a little background on this. This is a short story by Roald Dahl, and it was published in 1950. And even in 1958, it was turned into an episode from Alfred Hitchcock for Alfred Hitchcock Presents. It is a very famous short story by Roald Dahl. And the story is set in India during the time of British rule. And the main character is Harry Pope, and the narrator of the story is Timber Woods. Okay, he goes over to his friend Harry Pope's house. When he gets there, Harry is in bed, motionless, sweating, and in a panic. He claims to have a snake on his stomach underneath the covers. He asks Timber to go get a doctor. He calls Dr. Ganderby, a local Indian doctor who rushes over as soon as possible. So let's see what happens here. So I want you to note that this is happening. This was written in 1950. So we are in the heart of postmodernism and, yep, I see that incorrect spelling there. Postmodernism and post-colonialism. So let's start the story. It must have been around midnight when I drove home. Coming up the drive, I noticed Harry's light was still on. So he was awake anyway. I parked the car and went up to the balcony and went across the door of Harry's room, opened it quietly and looked in. He was lying on the bed and I could see he was awake, but he didn't move. He didn't even turn his head towards me. But I heard him say, "Timber, Timber, come here." He spoke slowly, whispering each word carefully. "Stop. Wait a moment, Timber." I could hardly hear what he was saying. "What's the matter, Harry?" "Shh!" he whispered. "Shh! For God's sakes, don't make a noise. Take off your shoes off before you come near. Please do as I say, Timber." Couldn't understand about taking off the shoes, but I went down and removed the shoes and left them in the middle of the floor. Then I went over to his bed. "Don't touch the bed! For God's sakes, don't touch the bed!" He was wearing a pair of pajamas with blue, brown, and white stripes, and he was sweating terribly. It was a hot night, and I was sweating a little myself, but not like Harry. His whole face was wet, and the pillow around his head was sodden with moisture. "What is it, Harry?" "A crate," he said. "A crate? Oh my God. Where'd it bite you? How long ago? We've got to be quick. Come on now, tell me. Quickly, tell me where it bit you." So I want you to notice this mood here. How are you feeling as you're at the opening of the story? It's meant to be suspenseful right away. One of your dearest friends is laying in his bed, and there's an incredibly poisonous snake. He's laying there in a panic. His pillow is just completely moist with sweat. Okay, so Dahl is using these images, the panic in his eyes, the sweat on his pillow, to help create this mood of suspense. At any moment, any sudden movement, his friend could die. "I haven't been bitten," he whispered. "Not yet. It is on my stomach, lying there, asleep." "You don't really mean there's a crate lying on your stomach now? How did it get there?" I was reading, lying on my back, and I felt something on my chest, a soft tickling. Then, out of the corner of my eye, saw the little crate sliding over my pajamas, small, about 10 inches. I knew I mustn't move. So, Notice the detail Harry recalls here. He's lying on his back. He feels this tickling, and it's about 10 inches. Harry paused and was silent for a few moments. See, it's still there. I could feel it through my pajamas, moving on my stomach. Then it stopped moving. Now it's lying there in the warmth. Probably asleep. I've been waiting for you. How long ago? Hours, he whispered. Hours and bloody hours. There was not much doubt about the truth of Harry's story. So, I want you to think about this. How would you describe the problem at this point in the story? We have this man who's laying in bed and has been laying in bed with a snake on his stomach for hours, which could explain why there's so much sweat everywhere. As a matter of fact, it wasn't a surprising thing for a crate to do. They hang around people's houses and they go for the warm places. The surprising thing was that Harry hadn't been bitten yet. All right, Harry, I said, and don't move and don't talk any more unless you have to. I went softly out of the room in my stocking feet and fetched a small, sharp knife from the kitchen. I was going to be ready to cut the bitten place and try to suck the venom out. Harry, I said, I think the best thing to do is to have a look first. Don't be a damn fool. Why not? The light would frighten him. It's dark under there now. Why don't you get a doctor? Harry said. A doctor, of course. That's it. I'll get Ganderby. I tiptoed out to the hall, looked up Ganderby's number in the book, and lifted the phone and told the operator to hurry. Dr. Ganderby, I said, this is Timber Woods. Hello, Mr. Woods. You not in bed yet? Look, could you come around at once and bring serum for a crate bite? Who's been bitten? No one. No one yet. But Harry Pope's in bed, and he's got one lying on his stomach, asleep under the sheet on his stomach. Ganderby said, Tell him to stay quite still. He is not to move or talk. Do you understand? I'll come at once. I went back to the bedroom. Harry's eyes watched me as I walked across to his bed. Ganderby is coming, he said. For you to lie still. What in God's name does he think I'm doing? I took out my handkerchief and very gently I wiped the sweat off of his face and neck. The beam of a headlamp shone through the window as Ganderby's car swung around to the front of the bungalow. I went out to meet him. How is it? Ganderby asked. Where is he? Which room? He followed me into Harry's room. He's wearing soft-soled bedroom slippers, and he walked across the floor noiselessly, like a careful cat. Harry watched him from the side of his eyes. First thing is to try to get some serum into him, he said, and he opened his bag and started to make preparations, intravenously. I must do it neatly. Harry's eyes were bright wide now and wide open. Ganderby rolled up the pajama sleeve to the elbow without moving the arm. He whispered, I'm going to give you an injection. Serum, just a prick, but try not to move. Don't tighten your stomach muscles. Harry looked at the syringe. Now I want you to think about this. Think about the doctor's willingness to come in the middle of the night, and that he knows who is involved here. He looked at the ceiling and closed his eyes and opened them again, but he didn't move. When it was finished, Ganderby leaned forward, putting his mouth close to Harry's ear. Now, you will be all right even if you are bitten. But don't move. I'll be back in a moment. He picked up his bag and went out to the hall, and I followed. Is he safe now? I asked. No. The little Indian doctor stood there in the hall rubbing his lower lip. It must give him some protection, mustn't it? Isn't the serum very good? I asked. Unfortunately not, he answered. It might save him. It might not. I'm trying to think of something else to do. Shall we draw back the sheet quick and brush it off before it has time to strike? Never. We are not entitled to take a risk. So I want you to think about that. We are not entitled to take a risk. Think about who is laying in the bed and who's trying to take care of him. Why is he not entitled to take a risk? Why is it important that they're having this conversation in the hallway? Okay? It is not safe, he continued, because a snake is cold-blooded and anesthetic does not work so well or so quick with such animals. It is better than any other thing to do. We could use either chloroform. That's it. Now quick, take the bottle of chloroform from my bag. It has an orange label and the name is printed on it. You got it? Ganderbai said. Good, good. I've just been telling him what we are going to do. He went back to the bedroom and I followed, carrying the bottle carefully with both hands. Harry was lying on the bed, precisely in the same position as before. I raised my thumb, giving him the signal that it was okay. Now, I want you to note how the tension is developed within this page. So now, we know that even if he gets bit, he might not live. We haven't seen this snake yet, so they don't know what they're dealing with. They're trying to problem solve, and they're hoping chloroform is going to be the way to do this. All right. Ganderbai used a hollow rubber tube, and he got a small paper funnel fitted to one end of the tube. He began putting a little piece of the sheet out from under the mattress. Finally, he took the rubber tube and inserted one end of it in the opening so that the other would slide under the sheet along the mattress towards Harry's body. Ganderbai himself was sweating now. Without looking up, he held out a hand to me for the chloroform. Tell him I'm going to soak the mattress and that it will be very cold under his body, he said to me. I bent over Harry and passed on the message. Oh, God Almighty, get on, get on! For the first time he raised his voice, and Ganderbai looked sharply, then went back to his business. Ganderbai poured a few drops of chloroform into the paper funnel and waited for it to run down the tube. Then he poured some more. I could see the heavy vapor of the chloroform swirling slowly like smoke above the paper funnel. Ganderbai turned and whispered to me, We'll give it 15 minutes just to be safe. So, think about who is Harry directing his frustration at? And how does the person react? So obviously he's directing his frustration directly at Dr. Ganderbai. And who is the only person who's truly able to help in this situation? Dr. Ganderbai. And why do you think he doesn't feel the need to say anything? So I want you to think about that. All right. There's about 3 or 4 more paragraphs to this. I want you to read the ending, and I want you to consider the significance of the title Poison and what the real poison of the story is. Okay? If you have any questions about this story, let me know, and I look forward to hearing your responses. Thank you.